You know this sword. Straight blade, square guard, black wrapping, slung flat across a back. You have seen it on a film poster, in a video game, on a cartoon, in a toy aisle. You could draw it from memory right now, without looking, and everyone around you would know exactly what you meant. It is one of the most recognizable weapons on Earth. And no Japanese swordsmith in the ninja's own century ever made one. Not one survives with a real history attached to it. Not one is described in the manuals the shinobi wrote about themselves. The ninjato, the straight ninja sword, has no home in the period it supposedly comes from. So somebody made it straight. Somebody chose that shape, deliberately, for a reason. And the reason has nothing to do with a spy crouched on a rooftop in the mountains of Iga. Let's walk backwards and find the hand that drew it. Start where you are. Start in the last 40 years, because that is where the shape hardened into something nobody questions anymore.
1981, a ninja film opens in American cinemas. 1983, another. 1985, another. Instruction books appear in Western bookshops. Then 4 cartoon turtles arrive in 1984 on a comic page and in 1987 on television, and one of them carries 2 straight swords on his shell. That is the moment the shape stops being a costume choice and becomes a fact. A whole generation learns the ninja the way you learn a flag. Black suit, star-shaped throwing blade, straight sword on the back. Nobody teaches it. You simply absorb it, the way you absorbed what a pirate looks like. But a flag has to be designed by someone, so keep stepping back. 1962, Japan, not America. A film called Shinobi no Mono puts a ninja on screen who is not a magician and not a monster, but a working man doing filthy, frightening labor for money. It is a hit. Sequels follow. Television follows. An entire boom of Japanese ninja film and stage work runs through the 50s and 60s, and every one of those productions needs props.
Think about what a prop has to do. It has to read instantly, from the back row, in 1 second, in poor light. A curved sword reads as samurai. The audience already owns that association, and it is the wrong one. So the property department needs a blade the eye can sort at a glance into a different box entirely. Straight does that. Straight is not samurai. Straight is also cheaper to make in quantity, easier to draw, and easier to sheathe on a back without the curve fighting the scabbard. Nobody can point to a single workshop and a single day and say, there, that is where it was born. That part is genuinely unsettled. But the ninjato appears in this world, the world of camera angles and stage props and 1-second recognition. It does not appear in the world of night raids. Keep going back. 1911. Cheap paperback adventure novels flood Japan, and one series invents a boy named Sarutobi Sasuke who leaps between treetops and outwits warlords.
He is superhuman. He is thrilling. He is completely fictional. And he is the direct ancestor of every jumping, sign-flashing anime hero you have ever watched. Notice what the boy hero does not have. There is no fixed sword yet. The image is still loose. The magic is the point, not the hardware. Back further. Now you are in the Edo period, and you are sitting in a theater. On the kabuki stage, there are men dressed head to foot in black. They are called kurogo, and they are stagehands. Their black clothing is a convention that means, by agreement, you cannot see me. The audience has trained itself for generations to look straight through them. Now imagine the trick. A stagehand crosses the stage. Nobody looks. Then he draws a blade. That gasp is the birth of the black-clad assassin. The costume of invisibility was borrowed from the theater's own furniture. A print by Hokusai in 1817 sketches a figure climbing a rope, and the picture in your head starts setting like plaster.
But even here, on the stage, in the prints, the sword is not yet the straight one. The shape you know is still centuries ahead of you, waiting for a camera. So you have walked past the toys, past the films, past the pulp novels, past the theater. You have not yet met a real shinobi. Meet him now, and meet him the only honest way, through the paper he left behind. 3 books survive, and they matter enormously. The Ninpiden, around 1655, attached to the tradition of the Hattori family. The Bansenshukai, 1676, a huge compendium gathering what the Iga and Koga men knew. The Shoninki, 1681, from Kisho, which is less a weapons book than a psychology book. These are not legends. These are the trade's own manuals, written by people connected to it, and today they are read seriously by researchers, including the Ninja Research Center at Mie University, which exists specifically to separate this record from the fiction. So what is inside? Grappling hooks and knotted rope.
Collapsible ladders, a metal tube for carrying live embers so you always have fire. Fire starting kit, waterproofed, gunpowder and saltpeter craft, listening methods, medicines, poisons, compressed ration pills. Lists of disguises, including the wandering monk with a woven basket over his face, the priest, the mountain ascetic, the merchant, the street performer. And instructions on how to talk to a stranger so he tells you things, how to read a face, how to remember a road you have only walked once in the dark, how to navigate by stars. Hundreds of pages of it. There is no straight sword. Sit with that for a moment, because absence is the strongest evidence you are going to get. These men wrote down the diameter of a rope. They wrote down what to eat. They wrote down how to keep a fire alive in your pocket without it showing. If a specially shaped sword had existed, if it had been their signature tool, it would be in there with a diagram beside it. It is not there.
Because it did not exist. What the record gives you instead is deflating, and if you let it, far better. The shinobi carried an ordinary sword, often shorter than a warrior's, usually plainer, cheap fittings, nothing that catches the eye, nothing that catches on a doorframe, nothing worth remembering if a gate guard glances at your hip. Of course it was plain. Everything about the job was plain. In 1562, Koga men infiltrated Kaminogo Castle, set it burning, and got Tokugawa hostages out. That is a documented operation. Read how it worked, and you find no duel, no rooftop sword fight, no straight blade flashing in moonlight. You find men who got inside a place they should not have been able to enter, and used fire, which is the cheapest force multiplier in history. The sword was not the mission. The sword was what you had left when the mission had already gone wrong. So why straight? Here is the part almost nobody hears, and it closes the whole question. A Japanese blade is curved largely because of how it is made. The smith coats the blade in clay, thin along the cutting edge, thick along the spine, and plunges it into water. The thinly coated edge cools fast and hardens into a different, harder structure. The thick spine cools slowly and stays softer and tougher. The hardened edge expands against the softer spine, and the blade bows itself backward into a curve as it cools. That curve is not decoration. It is the fingerprint of the process that makes the steel hard enough to cut and tough enough not to shatter. A straight Japanese sword, in that century, is a sword that argues with its own manufacture. And straight Japanese swords were real once. Before roughly the 10th century, Japan carried straight blades in a style inherited from the mainland. They existed. They are in museums. They are 600 years too early. So the ninjato is not a secret weapon. It is a sword from the wrong millennium, redrawn by people who needed a silhouette, not a blade.
The famous claim that the oversized square guard existed so a ninja could step on it to climb a wall is a modern explanation, invented after the fact, working backwards from a prop to justify it. It explains the movie. It does not explain any surviving weapon. Which leaves one uncomfortable question. If the films got the sword wrong, the suit wrong, the throwing stars mostly wrong, did they get anything right? Yes, one thing, and it is the important one. Watch a ninja film and notice what the hero actually does. He does not march to the gate and announce himself. He studies the building. He goes over the wall, through the roof, in the dark, in disguise, and he leaves before the alarm is properly awake. He wins by never being in the fight at all. That is precisely the job.
not the weapon, the method. The movies dressed a real profession in a costume it never owned, and underneath the costume, the profession is still standing there. Correct.
These were men who understood that the cheapest way to take a castle is to already be inside it. The sword lied, the shadow told the truth. Now here is my question for you, and I want you to actually answer it. You have to leave a burning castle tonight and walk 12 miles through country that wants you dead. Which do you take? The sword the films handed you, straight and black and instantly recognizable to every guard on that road? Or the plain, short, forgettable one the record hands you that makes you look like nobody at all? One of those is a weapon, the other is a disguise. The men who did this for a living had already answered. So the next time you see that straight blade on a poster, in a game, on a shelf, you will not see a ninja weapon anymore. You will see a stagehand's costume, a prop master's shortcut, and 100 years of storytellers all copying each other. And behind it, quieter and much harder to draw, a man walking out through the front gate with a plain sword and a face nobody bothers to remember.